Hi everybody, I'm Chef Bryan, cooking fresh with Green Giant, and today I'm going to show you how to do a delicious New England clam chowder. It's very easy with basic ingredients you probably already have in your kitchen. First of all, we're going to start with the beautiful Klondike medley potatoes. Now there's a purple potato in there that I'll show you how to actually use for a splash of color in your clam chowder when we get to that point here in just a minute. I have some great clams here, reserve the juice, we're going to use it, half and half. I have some diced up onion, celery, carrots, butter. We're going to be using a little bit of red vinegar in there, as well as some flour to make a delicious roux. So let's get started. To get started, all we need to do is simply chop up a few vegetables. Let me just show you a quick tip how to chop up a carrot. What you want to do is square off the carrot itself, and all that means is you're just going to chop off all four sides so that they're flat. And you can see I've already done a lot of this in advance. And then we're just going to chop this down, and we have our slices, and we're going to chop it in half again. This is actually a julienne cut, and it kind of resembles a French fry. And then we're just going to lay it down on our cutting board, and you're just going to chop that up into a dice. And that's how we're going to actually dice up our carrot for the clam chowder. As far as the celery, what I like to do is actually put it with the arch side of the celery up. This way it's easier on the cutting board and it stays place. If you put it down, it rocks around and you could potentially cut yourself if you put it that way. So put it so it's stable on there. We're just going to chop down in some sticks. Once again, that julienne cut. And we're going to slice those up and create a nice dice. Try and keep all your pieces a uniform size because they're going to cook evenly in your dish. And that's across the board with anything that you're cooking. With the onion, what I like to do to dice it is you actually put your hand flat on top of it and then you just slice right into the side. And however thick or thin you make the slice up the side is going to determine ultimately how big or small the dice is. So just come right down on top, vertical cut down. And then you're just going to slice right through all of that, and you've got a great dice on your onion. So we're going to add this into our clam chowder as well. Now I want you to notice that I'm using a fairly white onion. This is called a yellow onion, but it's got a nice white color to it. We don't want to add too many colors into the stock because it may turn our cream gray, and that's what I'm going to show you. A great tip how to add a splash of color to this in just a little bit with the purple potato that comes into the Klondike medley. Now the Klondike medley, I have them already chopped here. They come up in several different colors, and they have purple, they have the gold colored one, and there's a rose. The skins you can leave right on. They're very easy to use, and just a few chops and you can add them right into here. However, if you're using the purple potato in here, you don't want to cook it directly in with the cream because it'll turn everything gray, believe it or not. And so what I've actually done, and here's your tip, I've actually cooked them in advance, and we'll just stir those in right at the very end for a splash of purple color in our clam chowder. So over here on the stove, we're going to heat up our pan. And what you want to do is get a nice hot pan in here. I'm going to add a little bit of butter into this pan as well because we're going to saute all of these vegetables in the butter. You don't want to caramelize them because that's going to add a brown color to your clam chowder. You just simply want to sweat them to start releasing out all of the flavor. So let's just simply put the butter right into the pan. And we're also going to add into here all of our carrots, celery, and onions. And we're just going to let these begin to saute together. These are going to be very, very fragrant. And I think everybody who is around in the house may come right into the kitchen trying to figure out what it is you're cooking. So we're going to let these sweat up, and that's a culinary term that just simply means turn translucent. As soon as you start to smell all those aromas, it's really ready to go. Don't take it too far because you're going to have too much color in there, and it'll ultimately color the chowder. This smells fantastic. Now this has been kind of cooking for a couple of minutes and the aromas are delicious. It's time to put in our potatoes. I'm using the Klondike medley today. Just simply put those right into there and we're going to stir that up so they become nice and coated with that butter. There we go. Now we're going to do something very classical French. It's going to be the thickening agent for this. We're going to create a roux, but we're going to actually create the roux right in the saucepan with all of the vegetables in there. To do that, I'm going to add equal parts of flour. A roux, by nature, is equal parts butter and equal parts flour. So here goes the flour. I'm just going to stir this to incorporate the flour evenly throughout. And that looks good. You don't want to cook that for any extended period of time because once again we're trying to keep all the colors very light so it doesn't darken the overall color of our clam chowder. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some clam juice to this. That's going to give a lot of flavor to it. Just going to kind of hold my hand there to keep those clams in the bowl because I don't want to add the clams until the very end, and the reason for that is if they cook too hard they're going to disintegrate in there. So here's some half and half we're going to add in there for our creamy texture, and at this point you're going to let this come up to a boil, turn it down and let it simmer for about 10 to 15 minutes or until the potatoes become tender. So I'm just going to let this cook for a little bit. This is boiling now, and it's been boiling for a few minutes, so the potatoes are tender. And this is a great point if you're going to add fresh clams into your clam chowder. You would want to put them in at this point and simply cover it and steam them for a few minutes. As soon as they open up, they're done. Now I'm going to add our clam right into here. As I said earlier, you don't want to add this too early because if it boils and cooks too long, it'll simply disintegrate in there. So let's just go ahead and add our clam right into there. I also mentioned earlier about the purple Klondike medley potatoes. You don't want to cook these in with all of it because the purple will actually turn everything gray as it cooks. So I just simply cook these in the microwave until they are done. Now I'm going to add them at the very end for a splash of purple color. Fold these into it very gently so they just incorporate. And I'm going to use a little bit of nature's MSG, as I call it. It's red vinegar. The acidicness of the vinegar is actually going to spark up the flavors in our delicious clam chowder. So just add in a couple of tablespoons of vinegar to it. As well as you never want to really salt and pepper your meals or dishes until right at the very end. This way you're going to know if it has enough or how much salt and pepper you really need to add to it. So that's a great tip. So we're just going to mix that right into here. Oh, that smells really good. I must be hungry. Let's give that a taste. Make sure we have enough salt and pepper in there. That's delicious. So remember, when you're plating this up, you always want to have some great ideas for presentation because we eat first with our eyes. And so let's put this in here and I'll show you some great things you can put on top of it to really spark up the presentation. First of all, be careful with all of the chowder up on the bowl. I do have a paper towel here. I'm just going to wipe that down because you don't want to serve a messy bowl to your guests. So just simply wipe that off. If you get any accidentally on the outside of the bowl, just simply wipe that off as well. I'm going to finish this off by adding a little bit of paprika on top for color. And I have some chopped up parsley that I'm going to add on there as well. If you wanted to, you could also use a sprig of parsley. It's really up to you, whatever your individual tastes are. So here is our delicious clam chowder with a little bit of paprika and parsley right on top. I'm Chef Bryan. This is Cooking Fresh with Green Giant. I look forward to sharing more Green Giant family recipes with you in the future. I'll see you next time.